All righty, let's get started. After lunch, we're sort of also changing gears a little bit and thinking about the ways that the talent that's represented among refugees and immigrants can really benefit all of us. And as we talked this morning, one of the key things that came out in the current refugee resettlement process is the importance of employment. And as we all know, education is important for employment. And this is why we have brought together this panel to talk a bit about different levels of education, where we can meet students where they are, help them get the skills that they need to adapt to the US workforce, but also for us to benefit from the talent, ambition, and energies they bring. And I think we saw that this morning when we listened to Jawad and Han talk about their stories, and then also Kim and Salima talking about the ways that refugee resettlement organizations have worked so tirelessly and with so much care to place people. And now as we move toward the expansion of a complement in the Welcome Corps, that presents us with new opportunities and new challenges and ways to get people in the places where we can make use of those talents and ambition. So who we have here, and people have kind of sorted themselves nicely according to sort of typical level as we think about education. Paul here is the director of adult and community education.
Administrator.
Well, we'll make
for Fairfax County.
Or the main guy. And that's something that we think about, when we talk about immigrants and refugees, we automatically think about Cami down at the other end, and the sort of high skill, high tech talent that we can develop at our universities. And then in the middle, we should have two people. We should have Gary, who's here today as Commissioner for the Department of Labor and Industry in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And unfortunately, and within Paul's purview, his portfolio, is the Registered Apprenticeship Program, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that fits with refugee resettlement. The unfortunate part is that a lot of the leadership from NOVA was traveling this week. And we all agreed they should be at the table, and the next time we do this, they will be, with a little more planning and lead time in organizing. So I think let's begin by having each of you talk a little bit about the ways that your organizations work with refugees and immigrants, and particularly refugees, but we can also talk a little bit about immigrants. And I think earlier on when Michelle was talking about how there's confusion among the public between asylum seekers and refugees, that there's a clear distinction, but people on the street don't make that distinction. Same thing with other forms of foreign-born individuals in the United States, whether they came as an immigrant, as a student, how they got here. Typically, Americans, when they first see them, we make snap judgments, and we don't know their status. And part of the thing that I think is really exciting with refugee resettlement and the new turn with the Welcome Corps to complement the existing structures is you've got people out there in the community, and there's the recognition of these are people just like me. They're working hard, they're taking care of their children, they're becoming members of the community. So there is this kind of ambassador role that the refugee resettlement process can serve to the benefit of all immigrants and ultimately to the benefit of all Americans. So Paul, tell me what you guys do.
Well, I'm going to approach this from 2 points. First thing that we offer is a very large adult ESOL program that is staffed predominantly by FCPS teachers, and these teachers have gone through an adult ESOL certification process. So for individuals that want to start their career or want to come to this country and just become proficient in English as soon as possible, we offer just a tremendous resource for that. And so that's something that we offer, and it is, depending on the year, it might be our largest program at this point. But adult ESOL is kind of that universal skill that we can give everyone who wants to come to this country and needs help becoming proficient in English. And so that's where a lot of our students start. The other point where I'm going to kind of talk about where we serve immigrants and refugees is just from a career standpoint. I'm interested in working with anyone who is interested or recognizes, I guess I should say, the opportunities for career credentialing and skilled trade apprenticeship. And we have a very, very diverse student group in terms of demographics and, races and ages, different statuses, all sorts of different types of students come to us in terms of career training. And the universal thing is they recognize that skilled trade apprenticeship just is a tremendous opportunity. Students can come and study with us. I'd like to think that our classes are low cost. Many of our students are sponsored through apprenticeship, through the Department of Labor and our partners that work together with us on that. So they can get an education and become a licensed plumber, HVAC technician, carpenter in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And a lot of them do it at low or no cost while they are working full-time with their employer, going through on-the-job learning. So that is very attractive to a lot of people. And I do my best to help people recognize that. And if that's something that students are interested in, we have an opportunity for them. But, skilled trade apprenticeship and other credentials that we offer, just a tremendous opportunity for that student who wants to go out and do it, because the sky's the limit with a lot of these careers. It's really, what do you want to do? How hard do you want to work? What are you interested in? There's an opportunity, and you can easily go into the field, quickly get to the point where you have a living wage in this area. You can open up your own business. Sky's the limit. You can work for many companies in this area and easily make six figures when you get to the licensed and master level in these trades. So students that recognize that, that's who I'm working with, whether they've come here recently or they've been here their entire life. That's really what we are interested in terms of students and who we work with and what we can provide to anyone.
Great. Yeah, that's interesting. Commissioner Pond, what would you like to say about registered apprenticeships as part of the package?
That'd be great. And actually, Paul's doing a great job promoting our program, so that's fantastic. But, Jim, what I'd like to do is just real quickly, an overview in regards to Department of Labor and Industry. I have registered apprenticeship. It's delegated authority from the U.S. government, federal side. We also have OSHA and employment law and a variety of other programs. But registered apprenticeship is really important because it has to do with workforce. And let me just give you a little bit of background in regards to registered apprenticeship. 85% of registered apprenticeship activity with the apprentice is on-the-job training, right? About 15% of it is related technical instruction. And that's where it intersects with educational programs, right? So we have fantastic partners out there that can offer, like George Mason, support, and Fairfax County and others that can help support the registered, the related technical instruction. And that is really important. Partnerships are really important. But I have to comment here that the biggest partner that we have has to do with the employers. This is a demand-driven situation, right? I said 85% of the time for an apprentice is on-the-job training. That means that they are working. That means that they're actually getting paid. They have a job, which is really, really important. And so what we're really focused here in Virginia is trying to make sure that we get people into the workforce. That's the objective, right? And if we have people who are immigrants or refugees that can come into the workforce, that is fantastic, because that's what we're looking for. And so we travel along. I have offices throughout the Commonwealth, so I get to go to various regions. And companies are out there going, we need people. We need skilled people, people who are knowledgeable, that can help us with our business and help us move forward. And they're actually starting to say, we can't just rely on our local geography. We have to reach outside of that and try to attract other people to come to help our businesses. This is whether it's the individual businesses, the economic development in that area, all sorts of other organizations. So one of the key things here is, I want to just emphasize, this is employer-driven demand. So when we work with immigrants, okay, or refugees, we should help them think about what does their future look like and how can we support them. That's really what we're trying to do. We want to we want to make sure that they have as efficient opportunity and as much guidance and mentorship as possible so that they can be successful and create successful lives here in the US. Now, I tell you, Governor Youngkin often talks about how he wants to make sure that we are number one in regards to workforce and employment and getting people into jobs and helping move our economy forward. One of the metrics that he used, because he's very data oriented, right? As we probably all know, he's focusing on results. And he often talks about the U-Haul data, right? You probably heard about it. He hears about how people are moving. U-Haul has more people moving into Virginia as opposed to moving out. Well, I can imagine certainly that he's looking at the same thing in regards to immigrants and refugees, because they can be critical components, critical assets, critical people, critical citizens that will help drive Virginia forward. So
good. Thanks, Gary. Tammy, what about Mason?
I am a lucky one actually because FCPS is doing training students, getting them ready for us, and you are lining up jobs for them. So my job and my institute's job is to make sure that we still do the gap assessment of these students when they come in, because not everybody is coming through FCPS channels, right? There are 20, 21-year-old and 30, 31-year-olds as well who are coming in, and they need special assistance. They need, again, their transcripts might not be transferred over here. So we need to look into, what are the flexibilities we can have in the system in order to still accept them. Professional development is very important, right? To keeping the industry in the loop is very important for us. So we create professional development opportunities for students. Hackathon is an example where we bring students in the community. Recent graduates is what we usually do, but we can easily open it up where students work for 36 hours in solving real world problems. And some of the problems are very relatable to them as well. Microsoft actually sponsored one of the events, one of the hackathons last year, and the problem was about Ukraine, right? Your families might be displaced there. How are you going to communicate when the wireless system is, when the communication system is not even working? Come up with. So students can relate to this because they have a family, friends who they want to support. They want to be creative in thinking about those problems. So, and other than hackathons, bringing industry partners all the time here. Certificates are very important for somebody who's just here for first or second semester. We really want them to be up and running in no time so that they can apply for those apprenticeships and internships and can be independent, right? So they can sustain, of course, financial aid is there, but they want to be, they want to support their families too. So for those, we do bring industry partners who can offer them free certificates, can train them on, so that it's just not curriculum specific. It is more than that. They have to complete the curriculum in order to obtain their degree, but what else can we do in order to support? So we do have writing center here, so that again, any skills that are left out, we get to fill those here in order to get them ready, workforce ready day one.
Good, thank you. Well, you started to talk a little bit about some of the challenges. So let's go through at each level what some of the challenges are. Do you want to expand a little bit on anything you were saying, Cami?
Sure. So biggest challenges, they need to support their families at the same time, especially if you're talking about adult learners. So how to make sure that is taken care of, flexible hours, offering some of the courses that could be a flexible hours so that they can, also for students, if you're offering a lot of stuff for the community on Saturdays, most of their parents are working on Saturdays, they cannot come, they cannot bring their children to take advantage of some of the activities that the university might be providing. The commute becomes an issue. Can we take some of the activities to them, to their region? And that involves a little bit more effort. And the course curriculum development is also important because they are not just one size fit all, right? We do need to provide them a little bit more support system, need to have some more support system available to them as much as possible, right? They might not fit in 9 to 5 schedule. So how to make sure that there is some support available to them after those hours as well.
Good. Gary, for registered apprenticeships, are there any particular challenges that are faced by refugees and immigrants if they're interested, or that you've seen them run into in trying to get or follow through on an apprenticeship?
Well, let me start with some numbers, just because there's a lot of confusion sometimes in regards to registered apprenticeship. There's a lot of myths out there. A lot of people think that it is just the trades like plumbing and electricians and stuff like that. It's gone way beyond that. There are so many different opportunities out there. We have some grants that we have recently completed, and we have new grants that we're working on from the U.S. Department of Labor that are focused on trying to work with underrepresented communities. This is a big emphasis area. It's also trying to focus on new sectors or industries. So we're trying to move into more of like IT, cybersecurity, healthcare, where there's a lot of demand, and we can actually try to help funnel people towards that. So that's a great opportunity, but the challenge is getting the word out, right? Because people don't always understand. They think it's the government, and it's really complicated, but it's really not as complicated as people realize. So they kind of shun it a little bit. They also think, okay, registered apprenticeship, again, going back to the trades, but the reality is we have about 17,000 apprentices in Virginia. We have over 2,000 apprentice employer sponsors that we work with. So we have a very robust program, and I welcome anyone to come and talk with me afterwards, or reach out to the Department of Labor and Industry for more information on registered apprenticeship. But that is part of the challenge. It's the myth. It's the thought that it's more complicated than it is. Again, we work primarily with the employers, so they are hopefully directing more of the apprentices to our direction, but also in regards specifically to immigrants and refugees. They don't always get access to this information, these opportunities. So that's why with these grants, we're trying to get more promotion. We're looking to do more translation services in regards to trying to promote this. We're moving more to social media in multiple languages, but it's oftentimes word of mouth. And some people often talk about registered apprenticeship being the best kept secret, and we're not interested in having that happen. Okay.
Very good. And I think it's also interesting that, particularly with refugees and immigrants, you have to convince not only the young person, but their parents, that who may say, we've struggled so hard to get here, and you're going to be a plumber. But then when you begin to talk to Paul, and they say, well, plumbers make six figures, they can start their own business, that's an opportunity that they may not know about. And so that outreach is really, really important.
Absolutely.
Paul, what's your challenges?
Well, before I talk about my challenges, go and check out the Virginia Registered Apprenticeship website.
It's an eye-opener.
Yeah,
We love this guy.
Bob Sargent and I are frequently in Fairfax County high schools or high schools in the region, and we direct high school students and career counselors and student counselors to that website. That's a very powerful tool in terms of what is available to me and where, because you can search by sponsor, by zip code, and then people do associate apprenticeship primarily with skilled trades, but they have a listing there, and it really opens your eyes into how many opportunities there are in the Commonwealth and in this area for young people to advance, or really anyone at any age to advance. I don't offer aircraft maintenance or avionics, but you can do a zip code search and you can find a sponsor that will help you pursue that. I don't offer cosmetology. You can do a zip code search and you can find that opportunity with a sponsor in the local area. So I highly recommend, if you interface with anyone who is interested in pursuing apprenticeship or pursuing a career, you take some time on that website and check it out. It's an excellent tool to use. In terms of challenges, we provide education, and it really comes down to teachers. We can appropriate funds. I have classrooms available, right? And I even have students. It really comes down to finding teachers. Oftentimes teachers are highly specialized, and you've all heard the cliche, it's like finding a unicorn, right? Sometimes it is, but also I think it's tough all around to find teachers. The K-12 struggle is also our struggle. And so a lot of our classes happen or do not happen based on our ability to find a teacher. So teachers is our primary challenge in apprenticeship space, credentialing space, and in adult ESOL space. We need more teachers that are willing to just come in and be a teacher. Teachers, it's very rewarding. I taught construction and carpentry for 12 years. Highly recommend it. It's very, very rewarding. But teachers is our number one struggle. Getting people to take the chance and host a class and help someone achieve whether it's, a level in apprenticeship in their training or earn that career credential in business, IT, or health and medical, or any area really that will help that person advance.
Good. Yeah, I don't have a question. Last week I was up in the Boston area and we visited a language school. And one of the really exciting things there was that some of the teachers had graduated from the school. So have you had any success looking, as you're thinking about preparing courses and finding teachers, of recruiting among immigrants and refugees to sort of share what they have done and the accomplishments they have in the classroom?
That proposition, I would call that the long game. And so I play the short game, I play the long game. So yes, we do things like that where we have individuals that come through our program and they will come back and teach. I have a diverse set of students and I have a diverse set of teachers also. And I think some of them would be included in, recent immigrants to this country. Whether or not they're refugees, I couldn't say, but we have a great mechanism to kind of get someone through a program, really demonstrate the value, get them invested, have them become a stakeholder, and then, I would love it if more of them came back to us. But one of the barriers in a lot of fields is, right now things are going well in the economy, like things are booming, and the opportunity to make money outside or pick up an extra few hours on the job instead of coming and teaching where you're maybe not making as much, that competition piece is going to keep someone in the workforce. So really comes down to finding those individuals that, they're ready to give back. And so we do have, I think we do have instructors that fit the bill, and I'm looking for more.
Good. Well, Gary, since we're talking about the long game, this morning, Trish, when she couldn't make it today, sent me a quick text, and she asked me to read it, and I'm going to ask you to elaborate. She said, the Hired grant includes partners that touch new industries and new populations. Our goal with the grant is to increase a 5-year plan that encourages employers and job seekers alike to be innovative, to use their imaginations, and invite and include all who can bring gifts to the table. So talk a little bit more about and we are now a partner on the Hired grant, so I'm excited about that. But talk a little bit more about it.
Well, let me start with the craft grant, because we just wrapped that up. And it was a highly successful program where we were able to work with over 200 individuals to bring them into registered apprenticeship and support them. We actually provide some financial support in regards to, tuition or even equipment for some of their on-the-job training. The Hired grant is very similar to this, and we're actually getting better and better. We haven't traditionally done a lot of grants, so we're getting better now that we're in round 2, and we're really partnering with organizations like George Mason to really focus on key areas. So as you said, we're looking at new unrepresented populations, but also new trade areas, sectors. So we're really just kicking this off right now because it was just awarded, but we are looking at a base year in regards to this coming year, and we're looking at subsequent years down the road as well. So the first one, the craft grant, was a 1-year situation. So we really had a tight timeline to really perform, and we did stellar. So as a result, we're very well positioned for this base period, but we're going to have we look forward to having a longer runway to make sure that we can continue to be creative and incorporate some of the ideas from industry, quite honestly, to make sure that we're as successful and impactful as possible.
And I think that's a key point, that the demand for STEM workers and the need to resettle refugees, those aren't going away. And this is why thinking about the long game and long term becomes important.
Yeah, this is outside of registered apprenticeship directly, but I'll just give you a little quick story. From Ukraine, I'm a Rotarian, and one of my friends hosted a family from Ukraine. And this gentleman and his family, this gentleman had skills in IT, particularly in regards to software development and with mobile devices. And it was pretty hard initially to get him prepared to get a job, right? But with those type of skills, matching the demand in regards to that high demand area with these people that are from wherever, because you can develop, from wherever nowadays, is the perfect example of how we can try to make marriage between people that are, well, quite honestly, employer sponsors here in Virginia or wherever, and the people that have the skills that we're developing. And that's really the magic that we bring to the table.
Yeah, and that's the important magic. Cami, what is Mason's long game?
Yeah, I think I'm happy that you mentioned about technical skills, because those are skills that they bring, and the language is not as much a barrier, and the cultural shock is not that much there, right? Because they are coming from an environment where they have been developing content for either mobiles or for web applications and so on, or they know the data is given to them and they can analyze it easily. It's much easier for them to pick it here, but they still need a little bit of professional development. They still need a support system. They still need some guidance, because it is, when I drop my kids to college and they are born and raised here, still it is like, it's a new culture. And I have been telling, first semester I told them, don't take heavy courses, right? Because you are adjusting yourself. And imagine these people are coming from completely different culture. They do not know anybody. They need to, everything has to be, they have to figure out everything. Right? But these are some of the skills that are easily transferable. And we can, I think we should definitely focus a little bit more on those ones. MIT has a React program for refugees and immigrants and they're teaching them data analytics skills. So we do, in the long run, we need to think about what can we do with our partnering counties and with the grants and school system. What are the things that we can do and offer, and in fact identify who are those sponsors and what kind of resources do they need, because our students can benefit from assisting these families as well, in the sense of either they're mentoring them in those skills or providing them some more, helping them with the system, right? Making them familiar. They can be on the table to talk to them about things and make them comfortable in conversations and so on. So how, as a university, we can step up for the region, for DMV, in fact.
Yeah, that's going to be important. And I like what you were saying right there about these connections and the things, that as a social scientist, we would call social capital. And when we think about Lucretia, the 10,000 Americans that you're talking about, lifting them up, but they all have networks. And you talked about that's a way to amplify, the people who are the ones taking the lead, but then they can tie into their networks and provide that cultural competency that's so needed. Gary?
Yeah, Jim, I'd just like to make a follow-up comment in regards to, you talk about the technical skills, and there's a lot of portability with it, and that's great, okay? But one of the areas that is a challenge for immigrants is language skills, cultural skills, the soft side. I mean, in registered apprenticeship, we have on-the-job training, and we offer mentorship. And so that's hopefully a longer-term relationship, not just a course or a class or a semester. It's a longer-term relationship. And what that really can enable is that mentor can work with that mentee in regards to their soft skills, their durable skills as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important, because sometimes that's part of the barriers that employers and potential employees would have.
Mm-hmm. Paul, do you find any sort of challenges around the soft skills with the students you work with? Or are you developing? I mean, you do the ESOL program, so that's certainly.
Yeah, and well, as a high school teacher, I have a bias around high school students and soft skills. But soft skills are one of those universal items. Students. So how do I become an electrician, or how do I become, how do I get a job in cybersecurity, right? Or how do I get a job in culinary arts or the food industry? The common thread there is you really need to start with those soft skills. So my universal advice is to, take the items from the Virginia Workplace Readiness Guide in the Career and Technical Education curriculum and sharpen those skills. use the resources that you have. That way, when you do have that interview, you have that contact with that employer, you can demonstrate that you really have, sharpened soft skills that are, ready to provide that service or become a good team member for their business. So it is one of those things, like I said, it's the universal skill, and we work with students in a lot of different ways to help them get up to speed in terms of where they need to be, whether it's adult ESOL students, apprenticeship students, or students that can take advantage of the resources at their current high school.
All right. Why don't we open this up now for questions from the floor, things you would like to know about. Come on. You're also well informed, I guess.
So, is this on? So I'm Julia again, and I work with the academic English programs, the International Year 1 at the undergraduate, and the graduate pathway, which is a program for multilingual, multicultural students to gain entree into the university. One of the challenges with the immigrant and refugee population is a lot of the English language that is provided is what we would refer to as general English. You are not going to be able to take a TOEFL or an IELTS to gain admission, even into something like a graduate certificate program, to say, okay, yeah, I have a master's degree in whatever from whatever place, or an undergraduate degree from whatever place, but I want a US credential. I want something that shows to a US employer, yeah, I can do this job. And what's a barrier often in the programs that we have here at Mason is these are too expensive. And there aren't other places where there is affordable English preparation, English support for the level of language that is required to be successful at either a higher level professional place or at a university. So I'm kind of interested in, like, does anybody see any opportunities there? Is there funding there that we're just not aware of that maybe we could tap into to create some innovative programs that would fill this gap?
Yeah, maybe I can take that first. I think you're right, right? They are new to the country. Their English level is, depending on what country they are here from, may not be ready for TOEFL kind of exams and or IELTS or even basic entrance, right? For the basic entrance, they may not have those skills. And I think that's where the industry partnership can come handy, because we can offer them certificates that can at least get them into something. So by industry certificates, I mean, there are tools that are available, the applications, and usually there are proficiencies. They assess those proficiencies through a certificate. So Microsoft has several of them. Salesforce probably has some. Splunk has some for cybersecurity tools. And those could be leveraged. For them, they don't have to do anything other than just being available for a certain period of time in order to understand those skills and then take a certificate. And this is servers are servers in other countries as well, right? Programming language is same as programming language in other countries as well. They're still using, almost everybody is using same tool or similar kind of tool in order to assess data. So these are some of the skills. If they come with those digital skills, then, language barrier is not that big, because the emphasis is more on, I serve in women in technology, mentor protege, and I meet several people over there who are really, really good in what they do, and they are earning probably, pretty big in those companies. And the communication skills are lacking, So usually it is, can I focus more on project management side so that I don't have to work on this, right? I can do the project management mainly because I am good, I know the stuff. I just don't have the other skills, like more social skills, or I'm not there yet. And they're doing amazing. So I think if we look into, what are the areas that we can strengthen for them and giving them that exposure, I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, and that goes back a little bit, I guess in 2015, we did a project with World Education Services, we're going to hear from them in a little bit, where we surveyed 4,000 what we called immigrant professionals. And these were people who had gotten a credential elsewhere, which is where World Education Services came in because they were evaluating their credentials. And then we looked at them whether or not, and we had a pretty clear definition of economic success, earning a certain level of salary, having a management or professional role, and working in a job that used your education. And what we found across the board, and we did this in a number of cities, is that the people who were most successful, everyone had a higher education degree from outside the US, but it was the ones who had what we called the Made in America stamp. That there is that sort of extra push that happens from having any kind of US credential that works in their favor. And then also I wonder if at Into, are there employers who are willing, the tuition's expensive. Are there employers who say, look, this is someone who I can assist, who will work for me? And I think with the situation you were describing, Tammy, it's almost a glass ceiling often for immigrants and refugees, that they have the technical skills, but to really advance in a corporate setting, then the soft skills are needed. And so I wonder if employers are part of your source of funding for tuition. They could be. Okay.
It really depends on the industry. I've seen many examples. I talked about the 85% on-the-job training, 15% related technical instruction. We've seen a number of medium to larger size companies that are active registered apprenticeship employer sponsors that actually supplement it with additional language training as well, because I think it's really important. And quite honestly, they look at it as a retention opportunity because they want to make sure that people know that they're being taken care of. So they're thinking about it from a long-term perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. Good. Other questions? Questions? Sandeep.
I'm a postdoc at IIR. So my background is labor economics and immigration economics. So my question is to Gary. So many of the economic literature research finds that like immigrants, they have a job creation effect. So that means flow of more immigrants causes increase in the demand for jobs. So that means that creates more jobs for the native born workers and it raises the wage for the native born workers. So do you see that happening in the data at Department of Labor and Industry, or maybe through the other programs?
So I think you're talking about the federal level, the foreign labor certification. Is that the area that you're talking about?
Yeah, or like in general, the effect of immigration on labor force, like the labor market.
Right now, particularly since we have such a low unemployment, it's really not a concern. I think that the barriers are really coming down right now. I don't know what the future has in store, but I think the trend for many companies is they're trying to be more creative and more receptive right now. We certainly during COVID, we had the situation where a lot of organizations had to go virtual even. So they're more comfortable with reaching wider for resources. And I think that bodes well for the future of what we're talking about here in regards to having more of a global network of resources that can come to the table. People moving here, they have the same type of opportunities. They actually would have a more advantage because particularly if they have nexus, if they're close, they can actually become part of the community. And that is a step closer to, I think that getting more gravity in regards to the connection between, opportunities and the people who are looking for them.
And I think part of the, oh, go ahead, Sandeep.
Does that answer your question? I'm not sure.
Yes, kind of. Yeah.
We can talk afterwards.
Yeah, and I think part of the workforce story that really should be politically played up more is Social Security. Okay, that it's not only that we have workforce needs, we have a Social Security program that everyone's talking about is in trouble. And without our immigrant and refugee workers contributing in, immigrants and refugees are younger, and they're paying into the system now, and they will get the benefits later. But right now, to keep the boat afloat, the gainful employment of individuals with these talents is going to be so important. Any other questions? We've got a couple more minutes. We've got 5 minutes, I'm told. Anything burning questions? Otherwise, I'll do what I do in class. I'll start calling them people. Liv, as one of my former students, I'm going to call on you. No? All right. I guess one question I would ask then, and it kind of is a good way to lead into our next panel, where we're going to be talking about resources for employers and ways to facilitate that incorporation and integration of immigrants and refugees. How come employers, okay, I'm talking to you, Mike, as a representative of the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority and the Vice President for Talent, how come the employers are not going and saying, could you train my employees in soft skills? How can that happen if that's what we need? And that may slip into next, if you want to save, but I think it just seems like an opportune moment to make that connection.
It's a good one, and it's one that we were working on daily. We found that the chief human resource officers and the talent teams really want to leverage all the different programs out there that we've just been talking about. Where we're struggling and where we need to work more diligently is with the C-level suites and the hiring director leads that still, even though there's so many jobs available out there, they're leaving job recs open while they look for that perfect candidate, which is just crazy. And so we're working diligently to try to address that. That's really the high level.
Good. All right. Well, we will. Gary, go ahead, please.
I got a question for the audience. One of the things that we're looking at is, it's hard for us to get in contact with all the people that have, could benefit from these programs, right? So I'd be asking the audience, where we try to be a little bit more proactive. We try to meet people where they live, if you will, right? But we don't know where the address is. So I'm looking for you guys to potentially provide us with those addresses so we can actually go to those communities and help them, better understand what those opportunities are. So if not right here today, please, I'll have my card here, and I'd love to have some ideas of where we could go to connect.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and locating people.
Right.
Yeah, no. So we're no longer the best kept secret.
Exactly.
We're going for, right?
Good.
That's our goal. That's our goal. Okay.
And that's really the goal for this conference, is to be able to connect people who have resources and have needs and just don't know about each other. The idea is now you're learning some, you'll stay in touch with people, and then when you go back to your organizations, talk about what you learned and the things, the resources that are out there that have not yet been tapped. All right, well, on that note, we will thank you. Take again one of our conversational 15-minute breaks, and then we're going to come back with our employer resource panel.